Hi everyone, my name is Grace efezokhaegrace and the name of my channel is Converse with Gracie, and I created this channel to have wonderful, beautiful conversations with you, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you like and hope that you subscribe to my channel. And recently I've been doing a series trying to help immigrants, especially for Nigerians that are currently moving to Canada. And on this series, the first was I talked about 5 tips that I wanted African immigrants to know, that immigrants from African countries, especially from Nigeria. And one of those tips I told you was you are the value. As much as you are grateful to move to a dream country or your dream country is also happy to have you. So walk the street like you are the value. And in the second one, I talked about how to create a compelling resume. And today I'm going to talk about how to nail that great interview. So yeah, interviews could be very, they could be very draining and nerve-wracking. Exactly. So let's say, for example, someone tells you that you have an interview in 2 weeks. All your mind is on that interview. Hey, how is this interview going to go? How is it going to go? Even if they tell you the interview is on today, let's say today, and it's going to be for 2 p.m. In fact, by 1 p.m. they are still like, oh my god, this interview has to come. So I understand how interviews can be, and for me that I've done I can't count the number of interviews I've done in my life inside this Canada, but I'm grateful to God for where I am, and I'm grateful for my current role. It's like a dream role for me, in a dream capital market space that I've always wanted to be in, and it came a lot of publicity stunts. So yeah, I've had quite a journey that I think I'm in a good place to actually share those tips to newcomers. So yeah, congratulations, you've been called for an interview, or congratulations, you're about to be called for an interview. How do you prepare for an interview? Especially when you're coming from Nigeria, where you know how when you go for a Nigerian interview now, you wear your suits and you have to be very serious. Like if I want even go to the reception, like I'm here for an interview, you're so so polite. Even though that you're somebody that's outside, you used to fight people. You are very composed. When they even call you Mr. Daniel or Mr. Chekube, you're like, oh yes, I'm here. The way you even walk, how you are so serious. Someone even cracks a joke with you, they don't want to smile too much. Yeah, so don't mind me, I'm just teasing. But yeah, like for a Canadian interview, most of the times the first thing is they might call you for HR interview first. So the HR person will have like a quick chat with you about the role and see if you're a great fit, and then they'll send you to the hiring manager. Not all the time. Sometimes you might not even meet the HR we might just go straight to meet the hiring managers. So yeah, the one thing I want you to know about an interview is that a company has called you. That's when them start thinking, oh, I don't think I'm a great fit for this role. You are the value, and they've seen your resume. They've seen, even if it's one bullet point, they sort of like, okay, let's call this guy to hear him out. See, at that point, those know that you're an expert self already on that role, and you need to go with that confidence. You need to be very confident in your interview. So now, the HR lady might call you. Let's say the HR lady calls you and like, oh, hi, is this, can I set up? Sometimes they might just call you directly, or sometimes they might say, can we set up a time? Most of them, it's always phone interview. In that phone interview, act like the person is right in front of you. Be very enthusiastic. Let people feel the energy in your voice. So like, oh, is this Mr. Chekube? And you're like, I say, I'm excited to work for you. See, I'm really excited to work for you. I'm really excited to hear from you. Let people hear the tone. Let people feel your energy from over the phone. So when the HR lady calls you, she can just call you from the blues and say, oh, hi, I want to set up a time with you. Or do you have some free minutes to talk? Or why are you interested in this role? Or they will ask you, why this company? Just a few quick questions. Then they can ask you any questions. You can say, oh, what's the next step from here? And how do you like it so far at the company? That kind of thing. But the main one I want to focus on is the when you're meeting with the hiring manager. So yeah, even finally, congratulations, you are now going to meet with the hiring manager for the role. It could be 1 person, 2 people, or 3 people. Congratulations. And in these days of virtual interviews, it could be an interview over Zoom. So that's great. Make sure you have great lighting, great background, wear a suit. Even if the people that are going to interview you are going to be in their pajamas. So before you go for an interview, how do you prepare for an interview? Know so well about the company, like in whatever company or that company, who are their competitors, what is happening in that industry. So you're applying for an AML, anti-money laundering role in a bank, and you're being interviewed for that. What's the recent happening in that AML in the world? Like, what's the recent regulation? Have all those things in mind. Go on Google, type in the company. Is it Royal Bank of Canada you are going to interview with? Check in the news on that. I know that Google has, like, there's home, image, shopping, news. Click on news. So what has RBC done recently? Did they donate $10 million for some COVID relief for maybe people in BC, or did they donate something for people in that are suffering from the wildfires in BC? So all those things, you need to be able to be aware of them. And there's one very good thing that you need to know. You need to know about the people that you're going to interview with. So you need to check their LinkedIn profile, and you always know the person you're going to interview with in your email. So like, oh, you're going to meet with so person by 1 p.m. Let's say Angela Bibi. Now, right, go on Angela Bibi's LinkedIn profile. Check out her profile. Oh, she has stayed in the company for 10 years. All those information, know them. Oh, what did she study in school? Oh, you can see that she's heading a particular project. So have all of that. Research about the company, research about the role itself. Like, look through the job description. Look for one thing that you could use to ask them in the interview. So now the day of the interview is now here. You've done all your research. You are well prepared. See, confidence. Your confidence is independent of whether you think you're qualified for the role or not. You are confident. You have to just come with confidence, so that even when they ask you a technical question that you don't even know, don't down turn your face to like rough eba. Like, you now squeeze your face, you thought that you are defeated. Even when you don't know the answer, or you feel like you don't answer the question correctly, the question correctly, still speak in confidence. So now, another thing you need to know. So now the day of the interview is here. You are waiting. You've joined maybe Microsoft Teams or Zoom. You're already there on the meeting. I want you to know that there's something in Canadian culture they call the Canadian small talk. Like, see, I struggled with it because I'm an introvert, and I feel like when I even in meetings at work, everybody always starts small talk. I was like, can we just get right into the meeting and let's leave here and wrap up, and that's too serious for my liking kind of person. But I realized that that's how you show that you're a very warm person, because really technical skills can be learned, but all those skills like being able to be warm with this person, because they're also looking at you too, like, this person is a very warm person to work with. I know when they say Canadian culture, or like, the person doesn't have Canadian experience, it's not always necessarily about the technical skills. It's about all those soft skills, all those skills that are like, is this person a warm person? Is this person easy to work with? So yeah, on the day of the interview, you're going to start with a small talk. So if it's let me give you tips for small talk. Let's say, always the person's name. Go and Google how to pronounce the person's name well. So let's say you're meeting with somebody and the person's name is Isare. I like Isare. Okay, let me use Isare. Let's say you're interviewing with someone that the person's name is I'm thinking of one name, Billy Brown. So like, we do first name basis here. So when you pick up the call, like, oh, hi Billy, like, that's it. Let me tell you how to just set the tone for your interview. Start with your Canadian small talk. So like, oh, hi Billy, and they call your name. Oh, hi Temitope, how are you doing? Did I pronounce your name right? You can just say, oh yeah, you did. Or just start with something like, how was if it's a Friday, like, oh, how are you preparing for the weekend? Or how is the weather over there? Or maybe the person is not even in Toronto, maybe wherever it is that you are. Like, oh, maybe the person is in Edmonton. Like, oh, how is the weather in Edmonton today? Weather is also a very good Canadian small talk. You can talk about the weather. And if it's a Monday, you can say, oh, how was the weekend? How was your weekend? Or let's say there's a current sport happening. Oh, hi Billy, how are you doing today? I'm so happy that we are having this. I'm so happy to chat with you. Did you watch the games? Maybe person also say, oh, I'm so happy to have you. So did you watch the games yesterday? From all those conversations, being able to connect to the person. The person can say, oh, I don't like watching games. Let's say, oh, what did you do for the weekend? You're not what they call it now. what's that English? You are not, maybe in Nigeria you wouldn't have done all of that, but yeah, already showing them like that. See, this person already has Canadian blood in them already, because if you can get that small talk, you're a Canadian. In fact, we need to give you passports if you can master Canadian small talk well. So yeah, talk about all those and like, okay, then they now get right into the interview, and then they're going to if you can nail the Canadian small talk. So tips for small talk: weather, how was your weekend, what are your plans for the weekend, oh, did you watch the games last night, what else again, oh, how is work going today? And you're like, oh, it's been great, it's been a busy day. And like, oh, do you miss working from home, or do you miss working at the office, or do you look forward to work going back to work? I know how the pandemic, COVID-19 too, is another great small talk. Always find something that you could use when it's the interview is not an interrogation, it's a conversation, and it should be a mutual conversation between you and the interviewer. So most of the time, the most question that I'm going to ask you is, tell me about yourself. See, there's a time when I was actively interviewing. If you wake me up at night, I would ask you, tell me about yourself. So tell me about yourself. Don't go and start saying story of you are the firstborn, you are the lastborn, you have 5 siblings, you have 10 siblings, 10 aunties. All those things, we don't need all of that. We don't need to know your marital status. We don't need to know your age. So tell me about yourself. There are different ways. You could go on YouTube and check for different ways to answer that question. But how I do my tell me about yourself is I talk about, thank you so much for having me here, Billy, once again. Thank you once again for having me. Over the past 10 years, I've built a career in this. I've worked for different projects across diverse industries. You can start with that. You don't need to start regurgitating. You don't need to repeat everything on your resume. So what I always do, for me, you can find a different template for yourself. What I do is I start with over the last 8 years, over the last 10 years, I've built a career in this, and I've worked for different companies. I've had always in client-facing roles. Then you can now talk about, after you've done all of that first line of tell me about yourself, you talk about, and look at the job description. There will be some keywords that maybe they want to know someone that is a team player, someone that is a out of the box thinker, all those things. That's what they are looking out for. So make sure that you even talk about, oh, there was a time that you did something, one major project, talk about it. Don't make it too long. You can say all of that. So over the last 8 years, over the past 5 years, I've built a great career in human resources, for example. I've worked at 2 great companies in the telecommunications sector where I successfully onboarded 100 new hires. Talk numbers, talk money, dollars. You mentioned it's 100, 10, this one, asset size, project size, that kind of thing. And then you now say that, and then you can now end it with, at this point in my career, I'm looking forward to, and look, may never say that. You can just say, right now, I'm looking forward to working with you in this particular role because it fits into my career plan. And I think I can, because based on all the things that I've done in my career, I could be of great value, blah, blah, blah. And you can just make it very personable and say, outside of work, I like to read books, and I currently read a book about the autobiography of the Saudi Arabian prince. Like, I read books a lot, so I use that a lot, and it has really, really helped me. So, and I know it's like a very good catch, and it has really made me connect well with my interviewers. So I said, outside of work, I like to read books and travel to new places. And the last book I read was an autobiography of the Saudi Arabian prince. So you don't have to use books, you can use any other thing. Just make it very personable, because everybody that's going to come in for the interview is going to be saying the whole technical thing that they want to hear. So you to make yourself personable. And on weekends, I like to, you can talk about your volunteer activity as well. You can say, maybe outside of work, I volunteer for the children's church, or I volunteer for the children's for a community project where I teach teens, or I teach kids of 5 years old how to play the guitar and other musical instrument. I have to play the guitar and keyboard. It's not really about the role, but like it's just like, oh, this is a very personable and a very warm person. So make yourself memorable. So as even they're even doing their collation at the end of the day, like, oh, that guy, the guy that loves to play the guitar, right? So you can stand out with all those personal. Don't go and start saying that you like to go and don't go and find one outrageous thing. Simple things. Or like outside of work, I volunteer with this. I teach children how to play the guitar. I love to read books, and that for me, for the books part, I've even had an interview where that was where the interview ended for me. She just said, I say, oh, book. So really, what book did you say again? Oh, I've not read that. I was like, no, okay, it's a really nice book. It's about this. You're like, okay, I also read this, and I got the name of the book down. Try and rehearse with someone how that sounds. You can always rephrase. You can have a friend, have that interview call with you, how to rephrase those questions, is it sounding too long, am I sounding like an interesting, and be excited, like smile throughout the interview. Then tell me about a time when you had a difficult boss, how did you solve that, all those behavioral questions. So I know that some people are really good, they can flip an Hollywood script on the spot, and it will feel so genuine, like they really did it. But you can actually go online, especially when you're actively interviewing. Go online and look at all those behavioral questions and have an idea of different times in your career when you faced something like this. So yeah, they can ask you all those questions. Another tip I wanted to give to you was make sure that you've researched those people that are interviewing you. It's very important. Let me tell you, for my current role, one of the persons that I interviewed for the first stage, I checked up the person. I was like she was a director, so she, in terms of hierarchy, she was like the highest ranking person in the panel. So I checked her profile. I saw that she had spent 10 years at the company, I think 11 years, and she was leading a particular popular project. So every bank across the world are working on that project. So what I did, I went online to go and read up on that project a little. And then when she was talking about something, I was like, oh, I even checked your LinkedIn profile. Or they can ask you, when they ask you, do you have any questions for me? Always have, you can't just say no. Always have a question. So the first one, you can say, tell me how have you enjoyed working for the company so far? So if, like for someone like me, like I always do my FBI check on every one of them, check their life history. I'll be like, oh, you spent 11 years at the company, and they're always like, you've checked me out, right? So yeah, I always check people out. I'm like, oh, you spent 8 years in the company, and I can see that you've transitioned through 3 different roles. So how's your experience been working at XYZ Limited? You can ask that. You can say, well, tell me more about the team. I'm so excited about this role. I want to know how this team is structured. What are the things that the team is working on right now, so that I can see how I could quickly come on board and help the team out with meeting that particular goals and maybe projects. They can ask technical questions like, oh, I checked your financial statements and I saw that the capital market is making so much. There are so many things that you could do. So like for that lady, I checked out on LinkedIn. I said that she was heading a project. I had a faint idea. So I went online to go and, find out what that project was about. So on the interview day, I was like, I don't think we even got to the ask me any questions. She was talking about a role. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, because I actually checked your LinkedIn profile. And she wears glasses. So she was like, you did? I was like, oh yes, I did. And I found that you've been doing great things in your career. And your current one, you're currently heading this eyebrow transition project. How is it coming along for the bank? I know all the banks across the world are trying to, jostle to meet the deadline for. That was it. The man was so happy that I checked her LinkedIn profile. That was what the interview ended up. But she started telling me about the project. I was like, that sounds really great. Like, I read that in an article by Ernst & Young. See, the other lady, there were 2 HR ladies. So they were just looking at us in the panel. So they were like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it sounds really interesting. Me, I was like, if you even ask me, I don't know this project, but I'm just here showing confidence. So, you have to show interest in the people that you're working with. You have to show interest in them, that you genuinely care about them, you genuinely care about the company, and you want to add value. Me and Duma, we are still G's to date. Like, even when I joined, she had a chat with me. She always like sending me message like, hey Grace, I read this novel, I think it's really great, you should read it, let me know what you think. Or sometimes she's, you know, and she sent me, after the interview, she sent me a separate email saying about the project. She sent me documents to read. She sent me links to read on, subscribe to some things and some website links that I could read more about the project. Saying till today, not read it. But like, I just show you that I show genuine interest in what she's doing. And even now, when I have chats with her at work, I still ask her, so how is it going? She's so passionate about the project. So it's very good for you to be warm, very warm person. Yeah, be very good on the technical side. But you know, when you say, I'm excited to work for the team, don't say, I'm excited to work for the team. I'm excited to work for the team. I'm excited to work for the team. I look forward to really joining the team. It sounds really interesting. You know, ask questions. Or I read something online about this charity event that you guys did. You can say, oh, I actually have this very similar thing that I do, maybe back at home or here. You know, make sure that you are very memorable. And after the interview, tell them thank you so much for your time. After the interview, within the next 24 hours, try and send it. It's not a thing in Nigeria, but here it's a thing. So send a thank you note to the person or panel or wherever it was or day that interviewed you. So in your thank you notes, don't just say, it was great to meet you today. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. That's great. It sounds generic. So you need to make sure that you were really listening in the interview. So when you're replying, you can say, oh, thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley and Brad, for the interview today. It was really great listening to you speak greatly about the company. And thank you for, you mentioned something about the culture. I'm really interested in the culture. Mention something. So like there was this woman, one director that actually recommended a book to me. And she spent how many minutes talking about that book? She was like, oh, Grace is so great, like you need to read this book, like it's really great. And then she talked about, like, okay, recommend fiction for me. That's what we're doing in interview, because we're already on the technical stage, right? At the first stage, when I exchanged the book, okay, she was like, oh, she just read Harry Potter to her kids. So after the interview, what it is, oh, thank you, if her name was Ashley or her name is Bradine. Oh, thank you, Bradine, for taking time out today. I had a very interesting conversation, learning more about the role and the company. And for your book recommendation, I'm going to get it right now from the local library, and maybe we could also have some time later to talk about the book. Or thank you for your book recommendation, or maybe thank you for the career advice that you chipped in during the interview. So they know that, oh, this person was really listening. Because so many people, other people are applying, they're still going to go and say the same thing of, oh, thank you for your time, you know. So send your thank you notes, research about the company, research about the people that are interviewing you, know about them. Because I've had an interview where I had to meet with 3 directors for like 30 minutes each. So first one, second one, third one was like, I know you've been talking since, so be the one to interview me. And luckily for me, I had researched this man. I knew his bachelor's, the places he worked with. So I was asking questions like, oh, so you went to the University of Toronto, you studied economics, or you studied law. So how did you transition? Do you really want to go to the be a lawyer? How did you find yourself in finance? You know, there are just great questions. Like when you know about this person, you know about the person's interest. Oh, this person likes to bike. Oh, mention it. Like, oh, I said I saw online that you are the head of maybe the Bikers Association in Toronto. You know, find all those things and see. Nigerian interviews and Canadian interviews are different. Look into their eyes like this. I know that it's not, it was this webinar I watched, and the woman said something about how she had this African staff that couldn't look into her eyes. The time she was talking to her, she was always looking down. I know in Nigeria it's like a sign of respect, but here it's like a sign of cowardice. That they feel like, oh, this person is not a confident person. So look into their eyes, call them by their first name. Oh, hi Alex, hi Ashley. Sound very let them feel your energy, even if it's a phone interview, in person, or Zoom interview. So whatever it is, be confident, be confident. Please, even when you don't know the question, don't start feeling bad, don't start feeling that, let it show on your face. Shine bright like a diamond, like Rihanna said. And I wish you all the very best in your interview. And let me know in the comment section, how was your interview experience as an immigrant? I don't know, whatever country you're in, Canada, UK, Norway, Finland, Sweden. Tell me how you were able to overcome your fears for interview, how you're able to nail a great interview. And I really wish you all the best in your career. And if you have any questions about this video, please put them in the comment section, and always feel free to send me out an email for any feedback about this video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day wherever you are.